Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the panel being here. It's a very intriguing discussion we're having here today, especially after I spent 30 years in the information technology industry. As my good colleague, Mr. Riggleman, also spent time in the intelligence community in the Air Force in the earlier days where we were using analytics of massive amounts of data, and what is happening in that arena today is light years beyond anything that we were able to do with rooms full of main processing systems, mainframes back in the time. And I'm really interested in this field today in what we can do with our artificial intelligence. I think it's also as important to understand our limitations of what we can't do and draw our boundaries around that, but yet on the periphery of that boundary, having the sandboxes to where we can test and we can implement what we may be able to do in the future once we stabilize that. One of the things I am interested in is what can we do today with artificial intelligence in fraud detection and prevention, because that is something that is really important in the industry, especially as we move more in the fintech arena. My mind goes back to the chip card industry. Since I've been in Congress, when I first started here, my debit card and my credit card had a chip, but I could only use it when I traveled overseas. Once we implemented that ability here, the fraud went down by 76%. But criminals being criminals, all they do is shift their focus, and that focus has gone over into the digital payments arena, which is where we have a lot of challenges today. And Dr. Buchanan, I appreciate your discussion that you brought up in your testimony about how one of the payment card networks is using AI to help financial institutions reduce their fraud by $25 billion annually. Can you tell us more detail about how payment processors, financial institutions, insurance, retail, others are using AI to combat the digital payment fraud?
So when we're thinking about AI as automating simple and complex decisions, actually that's my 10-word definition, so I think I've redeemed myself, Congressman. Actually, one area that I can address to you is 50% of phishing detections are now finance-related. And so what I detail in my report are some very encouraging examples around the world where financial services companies have tried to reduce phishing attacks. So there's a really good example in my report, IBK, phishing voice detection app. And it's really a coordinated effort between regulators in South Korea and the financial services industry. And basically what this app looks at is, phishing in South Korea accounts for millions of dollars a year. It looks at, a phone call's made, and it looks at picking particular keywords in the phone call, and if it meets a particular threshold, then an alert signal is sent that this is a potential voice phishing scam, and a significant financial transaction is halted. In Estonia, Mornice is using artificial intelligence in this arena as well, particularly when they're trying to onboard customers in the first place. So they're looking at matching documents with video selfies in order to detect fraudulent IDs and fight identity theft.
And I traveled to Estonia last year, and what they're doing in the fintech industry is really a model for a lot of other nations. It's surprising, especially being an Eastern Bloc country, the suppression that they had during the communism to be able to come out where they are now. With regarding the things you just explained to us, payments.com showed that less than half of financial institutions use AI for fraud prevention. Why are we not seeing more use in the industry for fraud prevention?
That's an interesting question, Congressman. I think really it's because detecting fraud in the first place, we think about fraud as really being a latent variable. It's not necessarily directly observable, and so it's more challenging to machine learning algorithms. So you've actually, in some sense, got a little bit of a self-defeating goal here. So you could have, in the case falsely declining transactions as fraudulent, okay? Actually costs the industry a lot in lost customer loyalty each year. And so, and apart from this erosion of customer loyalty and loss of retail losses, the machine learning algorithms to detect fraud, as I said, they're more latent in the sense that it's easier to track someone's shopping history directly. You see what they purchase, you see what they buy. But fraud is just another layer. It's not as directly observable. And I think that presents a complexity to the process.
Okay, thank you.